Alaikum, barakatuhu. This is Raisa Kiwala. Welcome. Take a moment to just let me know where you're coming from. I'm in Houston, Texas. I know we have people here who have joined from everywhere, so let me know in the chat, in the comments, where you're coming from. What's your name? Some of you have your name and your picture on here. Some of you don't. So let me know what your name is. Oh, welcome, Salam Ruhi from Dallas. Welcome. Let me know what you guys can see on the page. Because I was sharing something, then I stopped. Let me know if you can still see because I stopped sharing. So let me know if can you see what I'm sharing or not. Welcome, everyone. As you're joining, let me know in the comments where you're coming from. I'm from Houston. We have somebody from Texas, Dallas, Texas. Where else are you guys from? It's lovely to know where everyone is coming from, and as I was getting ready today with my assistant, Sana, she's not on camera, but you'll see her as Raisa's assistant. We were just talking about like preparing to host you, and it was just really exciting because I love to host people, and it just really feels like I have people coming to my home and just preparing for them and getting ready. And it's too bad that we're not in person, but this will be good. This will be good. Austin, Texas. Oh, so we have a full house from Texas, Houston, Dallas, Austin. That's awesome. Okay, let's see who else is here. All right, so you know what we'll do is as you're coming in, from London, Samira. Okay, from London, let us know where you're coming in from, and then we'll just get started. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuhu. This is Raisa Kiwala. Welcome to the workshop today, the Ultimate Decision Making Workshop around divorce and marriage and just life. And so the goal for today is going to be about going through the process of gaining clarity, confidence, and conviction in your decision making, whether it's about divorce or anything related to that, and ensuring that your choices match up with your values and faith. And for us as Muslims, that's all about pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's see, let's keep going here. And this is an invitation for you to stay until the end because I do have something planned for you that I'm going to dedicate for you just because I want to honor you showing up for yourself and the time that you've taken to be in this space for yourself and trusting me to be here in this room together. So towards the end, I will share with you what that gift is, and I look forward to giving it to you, to gifting it to you. Okay, Bismillah. Have you ever felt uncertain which direction to head in when it comes to your marriage or divorce, disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yourself and your spouse? lost yourself in your marriage, your heart is closed off or numb to your spouse, suffocated in your marriage, unfulfilled, resentful, angry, confused, guilt, overwhelmed, and just depleted. Perhaps you reached a point where your marriage feels more like a burden rather than a blessing, just really overwhelmed. And you've tried everything to make your marriage work, and you're just unwilling to keep trying. You're contemplating divorce and you want to know the right choice. It feels like divorce is the only solution, but you really don't have clarity if that's the right step to take. If any of these are resonating with you, drop a yes in the chat. Or share with me, what is it exactly out of everything that I shared, what is resonating with you? Yes, I have one person that said yes, another person said yes. And feel free to share, anything particular that stood out from what I shared. Or is it all, Pressure to stay married. Oh, ooh, that's a big, pressure feels heavy. Definitely does. Everything that I mentioned, you've tried it all. You've tried everything. That can feel like, you can only do the best that you can do, right? Like, so you just feel like you're pushed up against the wall. Like, what else? Here to make you're here to help your daughter make the right decision. Oh, that's lovely. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Yeah, you had a few of them. You tried 100% everything. SubhanAllah, but also concerns about financial stability in the future and my children's future. Yes, they are quite young. We will talk about that. We will talk about those fears and what comes up around fears. Thank you for sharing. Alhamdulillah. I appreciate hearing from all of you. So this is the place, you're in the room to gain that true clarity that you're seeking for, whichever path is right for you to move forward. You're going to be able to uncover those barriers that cloud your clarity in the decision-making process and align with what is right for you. Like, what is it that your soul is craving and desiring while also pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Strengthening your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yourself as you navigate this really deeply personal journey and be able to move forward with confidence on the path that on the path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding you on. Have that feeling of peace with your decision, free from doubt and guilt, knowing that your decision is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you're doing the right thing for yourself. Okay, so who am I? I'm your host, Raisa Kiwala, and I understand a lot of what you've been sharing. I've been weighed down by my emotions before and just lost, confused, and searching for clarity. So you may be seeking divorce. Maybe your spouse is seeking divorce, or maybe you both come to the conclusion and decision that divorce is the right option for both of you. This can apply to any scenario, because all of these things are happening. And that is exactly the reason why I got into this work, because I went through all of this myself. In my particular situation, I was not seeking divorce. Divorce was something that I was afraid of, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And that was something that was presented to me. So and when there was so much fear for me, so much insecurity. And my whole life, I never knew how to make any decisions. I didn't have to, the only thing I knew how to do was to outsource it because that felt safe and comfortable to me. even though as an adult, I was a, working professional as a pharmacist, which I'm retired from now, I didn't know how to make decisions. I always used to look to others for what I should do. It started out when I was in my parents' home. My parents made all the decisions for me. And then when I was in my husband's home, I just followed along with whatever was told. Like that wasn't even a concept of making decisions, right? So I didn't have that awareness. Then I found myself in the middle of this really high conflict divorce with no voice while I was screaming from the inside, not knowing how to make big decisions that were all coming my way. And it brought up I was in this state of confusion, anxiety, overwhelm, fear, just being scared and worried about the kids, feeling scattered all over the place, just drained and exhausted. And the worst thing was snapping at my kids. And I have 3 kids, alhamdulillah. And at the time they were 11, 9, and 4. And just experiencing so much guilt on all the fears and worries and how I'm going to manage all of this. And then, taking it out on my kids. And through that process of divorce, things got more and more highly conflicted. There was a lot of conflict between me and my previous husband. And I also experienced a lot of divisiveness in co-parenting and parental alienation, and just the heaviness of all of that was draining me. But through that process, getting the support that I did, now I make really confident decisions about my life. I don't need anyone's approval but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I know how to discern how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding me and what He wants me to do. And that's how I make decisions, by trusting Allah and trusting myself. In fact, I had a recent experience where I was going through a big test with my family. As I mentioned, I'm a retired pharmacist, and my family loves and cares about me, and did not agree with that decision for me to leave that profession and do the work that I'm doing now in supporting women. And out of care and concern, but a lot of it was from fears. How am I going to live? How am I going to survive? How am I going to support myself? All of these things. And for me, I had such clear conviction of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding me. I knew my identity, I knew my values, I know my purpose, and I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I know that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding me to. So it's very clear in my heart, but there was a lot of friction between me and my family members of what is the right thing for me to do. And there was a lot of pressure that I should be doing this. Why am I not doing this? And I was in such a grounded state where I didn't need to prove or convince. Yes, I shared. I wouldn't say I would say explain, but not from a place of proving or convincing, but sharing from a place of this is what's right for me. This is what I'm doing. And they didn't really understand. But I knew how to sit in that discomfort, and I knew how to share and hold space for what was coming up for them, while being really firm in what it is that I want and what's right for me, even if nobody sees it or agrees with it, or sees that. Even if they see that, they think and they believe that I'm making a mistake and I'm not doing what's right. I was able to hold space for them and still be compassionate, right? Because that's the point. The point is, like, it's not about slashing and burning and just like, getting angry and upset, but it's really about how do we show up? Are we showing up? Are we doing what's pleasing to Allah? And are we showing up and doing it in a way that's pleasing to Allah? So I was able to have conversations with firmness yet compassion, and alhamdulillah, like that was a big test for me. And so today I want to share how you can do this too, and to be in that space of being grounded and being clear and convicted of what your decision is, how you're going to move forward with that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yourself. So to get started, I wanted to ask some questions to everyone. And I want everyone to answer because it's all anonymous, just to have an understanding and a pulse of how we're all feeling in the room today. So we're going to give you access to a poll. So on your screen, you should be able to see a few questions. Like I said, they're all anonymous. Most of them are multiple choice and one is short answers. So I'm just going to give you about 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes to go through it because it's fairly quick. Can you guys see the poll? If you can't, let me know in the chat. Thank you for those of you who are participating and sharing what's coming up for you around why you're even here in the first place. It's going to be so helpful, right? And it's anonymous, so it's not about who is thinking or feeling what. It's really about like what's going on here in the room. What are we experiencing? Because the reality is that whatever you're experiencing, other people are too. That's for sure. That's a fact. Thank you for taking the time to respond and to engage. It's going to make our experience all the more deeper. I love that. Yeah, I get it. And this is really, it's not just for people who are contemplating divorce, you know, that's the majority of the people that I help, but I also do help people who have gotten already divorced or are even still in marriage because like, you know, we make decisions every single day, all the time, moment by moment. We're always making choices and decisions. And that's the thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us free choice. All right. So I love that you're here to strengthen your decision-making skills. So thank you everyone for sharing. Okay, so now I'm sharing on the screen. Let me stop this share. Can you guys see the results? Okay, perfect. So you can see that, you know, there's the biggest challenge in marriage was unmet emotional or physical needs, betrayal or infidelity. That comes up a lot. But there are other things as well, like there is emotional unavailability and lack of connection. So it's all across the board what people are experiencing. What's your biggest fear about making a decision regarding your marriage? The biggest one was financial insecurity. Yes, I can relate to that. Regret or guilt about the decision, impact on my children. All of these things are such big, you know, implications, right? Consequences, losing my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How often does divorce thinking creep up? You know, 83% said always. And then, you know, occasionally. So yeah, it just goes to show that you're at the end of your rope. And, you know, that just feels like the only option. So let's see here. Let's go back to this, what you want to gain from ask the question, what would you like to gain from the workshop? Clarity regarding your decisions, support hearing other stories. Yes, not alone. Clarity and confidence to have a clear idea of what to do and how to overcome the future, how to cope, and knowing what your impact is going to be on the kids, how to feel good in your own decision versus just doing what other people are telling me to do. It's been hard for me to accept when people say, well, you gave him a chance and it's too late, or that you don't need to give him another chance because I feel like I can give him another chance. SubhanAllah, this is beautiful. I love this. It's strengthening your trust with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what this is all about. It's about knowing what's right for you, because people are not going to know what's right for you because they're not living your life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not giving other people the answers for your life. He's going to give only you the answers for your life. So Jazakallah khair for everyone that is sharing and that shared. It really makes a huge difference in how we are experiencing this workshop. So let's keep going. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right, so we talked about this. What's your biggest challenge in your marriage, your biggest fear? How often does divorce thinking come up? And what did you want to gain from this experience? So, like I said, everything that's said in the room stays in the room, and it is a safe place without judgment. So, does anybody feel comfortable coming on the mic and sharing a little bit about your answers and what came up for you? Just feel free to unmute yourself and share.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead. I can hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll just give a quick kind of where I'm at, and feel free if I'm taking too long. But so I'm 33. I have 3 kids. They're 6, 3, and 1. And actually, it was in the last year, like really June of 2024, where I was basically at my rope's end. But I was postpartum at the time, like about 2, 3 months postpartum. And just think the main issue in my marriage has been a lot of just like narcissistic tendencies. I feel like my emotional and physical needs were not being met. Even though I was giving everything that I could, I felt like I was the one upholding all of the children's needs. I was also working, but I was continuously being told that I was not doing everything that I should be doing. So it was just constantly me trying to prove myself and not really getting any validation. And so I ended up filing for divorce in September of 2024. And then, of course, at that time, my husband was he was very much blindsided by it because I wasn't in a space where I felt like I could have this conversation with him. And after just counseling with like close family and friends, they were like, this seems like the only option. And so basically one day he got an email from my lawyer saying like, your wife has filed for divorce. And then basically from there, he acted like he had no idea. He didn't understand why. He wanted another chance. And so I actually did give him another chance, like end of last year, where he said like, yeah, he'll do the work. He'll go to the therapist and he can be better. And so I gave him that chance. And then so I had actually unfiled the divorce at that point, and things were not well, like when we had decided to like give it another chance, because what I felt like is I had a lot of like I had a lot of healing I had to do myself, because I was in a very angry space where I felt like he wasn't listening and he wasn't showing up, and I wasn't getting the validation for all of the stuff that I had done. And we had been married for 8.5 years at that point too. So it was a long time coming. And then, so anyway, basically what ended up happening is like things had gotten so bad to where basically end of December, January, we were both in a state where we pretty much like hated each other. And I just proceeded with refiling the petition in January. And then 2 weeks after that, he again came back and was like, look, I have a new therapist. I'm going to do the work. I understand. Like, I'm just hopeful, like, you'd give me another chance. And for the first month or so, I was like, heck no, like, I've already been down this route. Like, there's no hope for this. And then his therapist reaches out to me and is like, look, like, he's claiming like he's a narcissist. And like, I think that I need some more information so I can help him. And she was like, we could work on like your co-parenting communication. Like, I'm not here to tell you to get back with him. It's more of like, can you guys co-parent? Because clearly our communication was so broken down. So fast forward a couple months, I've done a few sessions with like the joint therapist trying to work on communication. And it's been a rocky road, I will say. Like, things are up and down. Like, some weeks I'm like, wow, he's truly a changed man and this is great. And this marriage can work. And then something will happen to where I'm like, well, this is a huge red flag and I don't want to just walk back into this relationship. And so I'm at this point where I feel like, alhamdulillah, time is on my side because the final divorce stuff isn't until September. We have a temporary order in place, and I'm just trying to contemplate, do I actually give him another chance where I move back into the home with the kids? But there's been a lot of like financial coercion and things like that to where I would definitely want like a postnuptial before I go back. So it's more of
Yeah,
just me finding clarity in this scenario, because I will say there's not a single person that is telling me to go back. Everybody's like, just
yeah.
leave, forget it. So I'm just trying to be like, well, like, if there's hope and if we can do it for the sake of Allah, like in the true sense, then yes. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for really opening up and sharing what you're going through and your experience. And, you being able to do that has, gives everyone else permission to validate their own experience because each person is having their own experience and the circumstances and situations may be a little bit different, maybe similar, but each person is going through their own struggle. And I love what you said towards the end. It's like it is a rocky road of knowing what is the right thing. And I'm going to go into a lot of detail of your story and examples that you've shared in the workshop going ahead. But what you ended with is, can I make this decision, even whether it's to give him another chance or not, but can I do it truly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. So Jazakallah khair for sharing that. Okay. So now we're going to start going into, all the understanding the turmoil that happens at this crossroads where you're like, okay, stay or go. What happens when I stay? What happens when I go? And it's just so overwhelming, coming through, all of the emotions that I talked about in the beginning, the anger, the frustration, the resentment, the burnout, the like, I've done it all, I'm done. So understanding what's going on here is it's okay to feel conflicted, because that's part of, making a big decision like this. It's human to feel conflicted and it doesn't mean anything. It's not wrong. It's natural. And there's so many different ways to make decisions because people make decisions in different ways. Some people, they go to people, they go to their family, their friends, they go like different groups. What have other people done? They look at other people's stories and their experiences and they try to navigate from there. Some people sometimes, we logically look in, okay, try to plan A, plan B, plan C, logically looking what steps do I need to take, very analytical. And there's all different ways to make decisions. And I totally get that. The big takeaway here is what I want to impart on you is that there is only one way, one effective way to make decisions. That's it. And that is through your wisdom. So what does that mean? That means that is through your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hearing how He is guiding you moment by moment by moment for your life, for your situation, because He's not going to give the answers to anyone else for your life, for your situation. No one else is experiencing and living your life or your situation. So no one else is going to have the answers. Everybody is going to have opinions and they are going to come from their own experiences and that gets projected onto you. But the right thing for you is going to come from inside of you. So that is the only right way to make a decision. Now, it doesn't mean that all those other things of, logically thinking are not important. Yes, they play a role, but they only play a role when you have the clarity. Otherwise, you're operating from emotion and fear. And I can completely, and I, have my own experiences in that too. After I got divorced a few years later, my husband had decided to move about 2 hours away. And I had to make a decision at that point. He wanted to take our older two kids, which were my two older sons, to go and live with him. And that my daughter, who was 4 at the time, would live with me. And they were 11, 13, and 6, I think. 6 or 7 at the time. And that was I could not fathom letting go of my children, where I was the primary caretaker. And, as a mother, how can you just let your children go? And again, we had a very divisive relationship. There was not any co-parenting happening. There was parallel parenting happening, a lot of conflict. And so it just felt like I was losing them. And I remember my coach telling me at that time, Raisa, this is a time where you're going to have to get really, really spiritually rooted and go back to your relationship and your connection with Allah. And of course, I begged and I pleaded and I, made tons of dua to him to show me what to do. And there was a lot of pressure I was feeling from all different sides, from my children, from their father, from what's the right thing to do. This was exactly the picture that you see on your screen, that I was like, which way, which direction? And that ache of like indecision, not knowing which way to go, because if you go this way, all these things could happen. You go this way, all these things could happen, and not knowing the future. And so I remember like going back to Allah and asking him to show me. And yeah, I did all the things, the crazy things, like, okay, let me call a lawyer. Let me ask this person. Let me ask that person. Let me talk to this person. And that was just like me acting from fear and chaos. And then, a lot of dua and a lot of sitting in silence and sitting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I could tell, my soul was speaking to me and telling me what the right thing was to do. But it was also, covered up in a lot of um, the fears, and those emotions. And I knew that I knew what I needed to do though, but it was so hard to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was guiding me to do, because it was not what I wanted to do. And I understood and I realized that yes, he was testing me, but he did, give me that guidance and that grounded wisdom. And I knew in my heart what the right thing was to do. It was to let them go. And that gave me so much peace, even though I was doing what it was kind of like, and I'll go more into detail in a bit, but it was kind of like I was feeling all of that fear, but I was trusting my soul. I was trusting Allah, not my fears, not my thoughts, not my feelings. I wasn't trusting my feelings of fear. I was trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And subhanAllah, it gave me so much peace. So this is an opportunity to really, like, let's go into about all of the common emotional storms that we experience, that overwhelm. What if I make the wrong choice? Fear. And as I'm going through this, I want you to put in the comments in the chat what resonates with you. What are you experiencing? How will this affect my children, family, or community? We already heard that. We heard that already in the group. Overwhelm. What if I make the wrong choice? We heard that too, like regret, right? Guilt. Am I giving up too easily? Hopefulness. Maybe things will get better if we try one more time. Frustration. Why do we keep ending up here no matter what I do? And I'm doing everything I can do. I'm the one that's doing everything. And then we still keep cycling through the same cycle. Doubt. Am I holding on to something that's no longer viable? If I give it another chance, will it change? And exhaustion. So I'm so tired of the cycle of hope and disappointment, hope and disappointment. It's kind of like that one more try, that one more chance, and you have this hope. And then when you go in, you experiencing the disappointment from cycling through, right? Only just to end up back up at the same conflict, same patterns. Constant back and forth can leave you just drained, and it's like being on a treadmill and not going anywhere. So let me see what you guys have shared. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. I love how there's a parent and a daughter here who are, you know, strengthening each other and seeking answers. Fear for the children because you feel like you're their primary, and if you get a divorce, then you can't be there for them in the same capacity. And hopefulness that maybe there's enough change in him to where the relationship is sustainable. SubhanAllah, I totally get that. Anyone else? Anyone else that's experiencing these emotions? Can you relate to this? Because as we move forward, we're going to reflect on why these, emotions arise and how they influence our decision making, and then how to approach it in a way that cuts through this confusion to the clarity. Okay, so let's keep going. I want to talk a little bit about the number one mistake that's made when making a decision like this. I want to just expose what comes up and what people fall into and how to avoid it. Because this is where we're really going to start assessing and understanding from what place are we making this decision. And that is that number one mistake is making emotional decisions. And it's can be so subtle, we may not even realize it. That fear, the pressure that we talked about, the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, and and even asking family and friends, because they're going to tell you what they think. They're going to tell you their opinion. And sometimes, we may move ahead with it because we're so confused and we just don't know what else to do. And sometimes it doesn't resonate. Like if somebody tells you, okay, you should do this, your only option looks like this. And we want to rely on what Allah is telling us, how Allah is guiding us. We don't want to follow what people are telling us, right? Even people who care about us and who love us, right? I shared my own story in the beginning about knowing what's right for me and listening to Allah rather than listening to anyone else. Because, when we listen to people, if we follow their advice, sometimes it may not sit well with us, but we're doing it anyways, right? Because we don't know what else to do. And that happens, that's okay. And or sometimes it doesn't sit well with us, but we do it anyways. Or sometimes we may get backlash, like I'm giving you advice, you're asking for advice, why aren't you doing what I'm telling you? This is what you need to do, this is what you should be doing, right? Because it can lead to a lot of guilt and regret because we just can't see clearly when we're in an emotional state. And because the goal really is to make that decision from clarity and wisdom, not emotion. That's going to come from that internal peace, not from external pressures. And what I said, um, earlier, that sometimes it can be so subtle that you're like that feeling of I'm done. I've done everything I can possibly do. There is nothing left to do. I'm clear. That's it. It's over. And even that is so subtle because it's still coming from an emotional place, because it's coming from like a fed up burnout. It's not coming from like clarity because it's not coming from peace, right? It's coming from seeking relief. I'll get into that. What does that mean? So I want to ask, take this opportunity right now to go into a breakout room, and what we're going to do is you're going to be answering this question: when you're faced with a difficult decision, where do you usually turn to first? And how does that impact your peace and your clarity? I want you to reflect on this, and we're going to put you in breakout rooms, and you're going to have a partner, and you're going to each get 3 minutes to share. And then we're going to come back in 6 minutes, and then we're going to take a break. So let's, my assistant Sana is going to help with that. And if you're still in the room, if you want to go in the breakout room, you can click on that link and it'll take you in the breakout room. And if you're not, that's okay. You can just sit and reflect on this question. And see what comes up for you. I just realized I was muted. I was just saying that if you're in the room with us, that's great. We're just reflecting on this question while the other participants are in the breakout room having a discussion on this question of when you're faced with a difficult decision, where do you usually turn to first? And how does that impact your peace and your clarity? We're just reflecting on that. If you can't figure out how to join, it's okay, don't worry about it. I think we have like about a minute left. Okay, everyone's coming back into the rooms and to the main room now. Hey, it looks like we have people coming back in to the room. Okay, is everybody back from the breakout rooms? Everybody back in the room? Okay, looks like everyone's back. Okay, so what did you guys uncover? When you're faced with a difficult decision, where do you go to, and how does that affect your peace and your clarity? Anybody want to share? Either in the chat or you can unmute. What did you guys uncover in your conversations? Did whatever you chose to do, wherever you chose to turn, did it give you more peace and clarity, or was there more confusion? Did it help you in terms of overwhelm, or what was your experience? What did you find here? Okay, let's see what's in the chat. Oh, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Realize that I base my decisions off of other people too much, and recently have had a shift on turning back to Allah first and foremost. SubhanAllah, what a beautiful realization, isn't that? It's a gift. It's a gift when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you that insight. Yeah, right. That's beautiful. Anyone else? What came up for you? Turning to Allah has been a natural shift, and realizing how disconnected I was from Islam and my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wonderful, beautiful. I can totally relate to this as well, because I used to go to everyone else for my answers and it was such a habit that even every now and then I could see myself be like, oh, okay, let me call this. No, 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 no. Let me go to Allah first. Let me go to Allah first, and He will guide me on who can help me or what's going to help me. So beautiful. Now, the next thing I wanted to ask you is, let me go out of here. What do you need to feel at peace with your decision? So this is something we can ponder and reflect on. And I want you to just put it in the chat. I turn to Allah, but being too much emotional and not seeing any sign from Him yet. I love this. No, sir, thank you for sharing. And this is what we're going to cover. We're going to get right into that. Why you're not able to hear or see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to show you. Because you know what? He is guiding us all the time. It's just that where there's so much clogged up here in our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, it just becomes so heavy. It drowns out and it covers up what He's trying to show us. I feel like I just need more time to feel at peace. And inshallah, using that time to make dua and trust in Him. SubhanAllah. Thank you for sharing that, Fatima. Isn't that interesting how, like, you know, we think we know what we need, and it's very real to us, right? And we think about who's the owner of time, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of time. And everything happens on His timeline, not on our timeline. So it's like sometimes we think we know what we need, but Allah knows what we need, right? And it's like, how do we align with what I think I need with what Allah knows that I need, and getting into that alignment of what is that actually. But I love that, you know, the time to feel at peace, making dua and trusting Him. Yes. Don't know what I need. I love that too, because there are times when we don't know. That's very true. And how are we going to get to know? We're going to cover that, and that process and that journey of surrendering and seeking the answers. And where are we going to seek, right? I need to feel I am secured and Allah is pleased with me and He will take care of me. I love this. That's so true, right? Because when we know with that certainty that I'm doing what is pleasing to Allah, I'm doing my best, and that's what He's looking for, my intention and my effort, He's got me. He's going to take care of me. And we're going to talk about this. Love it. So let's take let me ask you guys, you want to take a 5-minute break or a 2-minute break, or you want to keep going? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys want? Because I don't want you to be stuck in a seat. Or keep going. Hassan is saying keep going, keep going. I've gotten 2 keep goings. Anybody else? What do you guys want to do? If nobody else shares, then I'm going to go with the 2 keep goings, if that's what you guys want. Keep going. Okay. So 3 of you guys want to keep going. All right. We will keep going. Anybody want a break? Because I don't want to pressure you. I intended to give you a break. We're going to have another break later, but I intended to give you a break at this time. So if you do, it's perfectly fine to say that you do. Okay. Majority is saying keep going. So we will do that. Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about priorities, right? And assessing and being clear with what truly matters to you, right? In making decisions, recognizing, hey, you know, how am I making this decision? Am I looking about what I need right here, right now? Or am I looking at, like, you know, how is this going to affect me, not just later on in life or my children, but how is this going to affect our akhirah, right? Because that's what, as Muslims, we want to think about. We want to see, are we conscious of Allah? Are we thinking of Allah when we're making this choice and this decision, right? Is our intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is the way we're executing our decision in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And recognizing that our peace and our emotional safety, it's an inside job, meaning that peace and security and safety come from our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the present moment. Not about what's happening on the outside, circumstances, people. It comes from, are we connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that present moment? Are we conscious of him? So let me know who is already doing this. Tell me a yes. And if you're not, that's okay, no problem. Who wants to learn how to do this? Let me know in the comments. Give me a yes. Thank you. Thank you, Fatima. How about everyone else? I know you guys all want to have your intention to be pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why you're here. So let's keep going. Okay, so checking in, am I making this decision from fear or from faith? And this is important. Like you'll see, I'll keep asking, checking in, you know, inward, right? Coming back to reflecting, you know, am I making this decision from a space of peace, or if I'm making this decision from, because peace is where you find clarity, or is there fears? And as you know, as I was mentioning earlier, that I went through a lot of fear when I had to make that decision to let my boys go. And, you know, it was very emotional for me. And it was hard for me to see the right path. But, and especially with all the things going back and forth, as I mentioned, there was a lot of communication, a lot of pressure. The boys were being pressured to get me to say yes. They were pressuring me, and I, you know, didn't want to disappoint them or say no to them, but I also didn't want to let them go. I really didn't. You know, it was very confusing. What is the right thing to do here? And like I said, there were so many fears on what's going to happen to them. How are they going to be raised? You know, how is their relationship with Allah going to be impacted? How is their akhlaq going to be impacted? Their character, their upbringing, all of that. Like, what about their bond with me? What's going to happen with that? All of these things were covering up my wisdom, right? And the thing is that when we make that decision from what is Allah guiding me to do, we don't need to worry about all that stuff, right? Because it's when we trust Allah, He's taking care of everyone, the father, the mother, the children, all of that, right? Because we don't see that. We can't see that. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see that. And so, and it's really common in terms of like when we feel the pressure and we feel that sense of urgency, that comes from shaitan, okay? Because urgency is from emotion, it's not from wisdom. Because when you have wisdom, there's no urgency, there's peace and patience. And going towards, like bending towards making a decision just to get relief from that pressure is falling into emotion, right? And so we don't want to do that. We want to make that, we want to choose faith over fear. We want to, you know, that saying of feel the fear and trust Allah, feel the fear and do it anyways, right? So let's talk a little bit about decision making. Go a little bit deeper into decision making. So we all know that you know, when we have a decision to make or an action to take, and we're in indecision, we're not doing it on purpose, right? This sitting in indecision, a lot of it comes from avoidance. It comes from not having clarity, but it's a coping mechanism that when we are avoiding making a decision we know we need to make, but we're just stuck and we're frozen in fear, or we're just frozen. It's the body's way, the mind's way of keeping you safe and protecting you, because it's just so much overwhelmed with all of the thoughts and the fears and all of the thoughts that we talked about, right? The emotional storms that come up, that makes you debilitated, right? Because the mind, it can't handle that. So it copes by going into freeze mode or indecision. But, you know, and that's okay. Understanding our humanness and realizing what is happening and getting the support that we need to process and work through what's coming up for me? Why is it coming up for me? What is Allah trying to show me? What is the message He's trying to give me through the emotions and the feelings that I'm feeling? That is good. That's fine, no problem. It's when we get lost for years and decades. Yes, this happens. It does come at a cost, right? In terms of even emotionally, constantly second guessing ourselves, impact on relationships. It does leak out onto our relationships in terms of how we show up. I mentioned earlier, like, I was lashing out at my kids because of the overwhelm that I was feeling, and that being spiritually distant, right? Wondering whether it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishing me, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listening to me? Can He hear me? I can't hear Him, and just all of the time and the energy that's lost in doing other things to avoid making the decision that you need to make. And whether it's scrolling, for hours, Netflix binging, or food, that was a big thing for me. And it's not just about decision making, it's about addressing something that needs to be addressed. And these are all symptoms of knowing that you're in your emotions, right? So yes, indecision is draining, but don't confuse urgency with wisdom. Instead of reacting from "I'm done," what if you gave yourself the permission to say, "I want to decide from wisdom, from strength, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance, so I can walk forward with that peace, no matter what the outcome is." Okay. And I want to share with you a little bit about this is something I teach in my mastermind, Empowered Choices, and really helping you understand yourself. Like, what does this mean? How we work. We have thoughts and feelings, right? And there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to go explain and unpack this whole slide. I do that in my mastermind in depth, but this is really like somebody will do something or say something, right? And you'll get triggered. And it's not about them causing you to feel what you're feeling. It's about, look at it this way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses people, circumstances, and situations to send us a message. And we call those feelings love letters from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is giving us a message. So these big feelings come up for you. And underneath the feelings are thoughts. So thoughts come, feelings come, we can't control those, okay? And it's good to know that, because if we're trying to control that, then we're stuffing our feelings down, we're grappling with our feelings, we're resisting our feelings, and it's a lot of suppression of our feelings, and that hurts us, causes a whole host of other problems. So the thoughts create the thoughts create the feelings, create the behavior, and then creates an outcome. We are not judged on our thoughts or our feelings. We're not judged on the outcome either, because that's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are judged on our behavior, okay? And that's the only place for change, right? We can feel the feelings, we can have the thinking, but it's the action, right? And so why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you is because understanding that we are thinking, feeling beings, and that is how we act or react. But we don't want to react. We don't want to live from reactivity mode. We want to be calm, conscious, aware, choosing, intentionally, consciously choosing how you're going to show up in every given moment in whatever situation that you're facing. Right? As you're navigating the conflicts, as you're navigating the choices that you have to make to solve these things. So again, I'm just sharing this just to understand that behind our behaviors, our thoughts or feelings. And it's not about, like I said, it's about consciously choosing, right? Even if we're feeling fear because we're having fearful thinking going on underneath, whether it's conscious or subconscious, it doesn't matter, right? But how are we going to respond? Are we going to respond in a way that's pleasing to Allah, or are we going to respond based on our feelings of fear, right? And that leads to a whole host of other things, which I did myself too, and I still find myself doing, except it's not as common, and I can catch it now and help myself through it. Because when we're especially when we're having fear, we're going to be either avoiding, or we're going to be controlling, trying to control the outcome, and that's not our job. Outcome belongs to Allah alone. All right, so let's, okay, where we are right now. Decision making. Let's talk a little about decision making, right? Taking action from a place of clarity and tawakkul, whether that's staying or leaving, is a step towards the promise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes to us, right? That He's going to find a way for us from where we can't imagine, right? And yes, there will be a recording for this. But remember, I'm going to be offering a free gift if you're staying all the way to the end that you're not going to want to miss. So imagine what life could look like for you on the other side of confusion. Because, you know, it's sometimes we think avoidance is the best thing because we don't, that's how we're coping with it. We're just living in survival mode, right? And just checking in with yourself. How does that sound? How does that feel to you? Like feeling empowered versus feeling like hopeless, helpless, defeated when you don't know which way to go, right? So check in with yourself and ask, can you imagine a path forward where you are true to yourself and pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what would that feel like for you? And what I mean by this is like something that is going to feel so yummy and delicious to you. Like this is the path that I want to go on. At the same time, pleasing Allah. Like the alignment of what you want and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Can you see that for yourself? And what would it feel like? Can you see that? So a lot of times we're like, I want this, but will Allah be happy with it? I want this, but is it the right thing to do? How would that look to you? Could you close your eyes and really imagine like being in harmony with the path that you're living, that you're going on? Because you know that's pleasing to Allah and it speaks to your soul as well. You can share in the chat. Does this seem hard, difficult? Feels really great. I'm picturing tranquility. Ooh, it does feel great actually. Yeah. You know, it can feel difficult because when you've been living in conflict for so long, especially internally with yourself, when you've been in internal conflict with yourself for so long, it's hard to even imagine what could that look like? What would that look like? I don't know. I have no idea. And it's okay if you don't know. Not worrying about how I fit into society and having righteous company. Oh, wow. That's a big one. That's a very common one as well. That comes up a lot of where do you fit? Where do you belong? Like, what does this mean about me? How are people perceiving me? You know, fitting in and belonging is part of our human needs. Feelings of peace, contentment, like a burden has been lifted, freedom to be. Ooh, I love that. Peace, contentment, burden has been lifted, that pressure is gone, like you just can be yourself. And what a great feeling to be yourself and knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with you. I think it would feel like contentment. I love that. I love that. I'm hearing a lot of peace, tranquility, contentment, reconnecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reconnecting with myself. Love that. That's exactly what you're gonna get when that happens. And you know, it's not our fault because life goes in so many different directions and it disconnects us from Allah and ourselves. disconnects us through all the experiences. And, you know, we consciously have to choose to come back to Allah, and we get to make that choice. Because remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with us. He says that he's closer to us than our jugular vein. So he's always there, but where are we? And then there's so much beauty in that journey of reconnecting to Allah, but to ourselves as well, because, you know, throughout life, we go through experiences, and there's been times that you've had to dismiss yourself. You've had to, you know, shut yourself down just to survive and adjust to the environment that you're in. And you've had to shut down and, you know, dismiss parts of yourself. And this journey of reconnecting back to yourself is a lot about integration, of stepping into that whole healthy human soul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you to be. It's very cathartic and healing. So I love that for you. I would feel so happy, peace. Oh my God, I love that. For me, I think it also has to do with focusing on myself and my relationship with Allah, and not just people pleasing. So I agree with the above. A burden has been lifted. SubhanAllah. I love how you're connecting people pleasing with the burden. Isn't that so, like, let's just pause to take that in a little bit, because people pleasing really is a burden, because we weren't designed to please people. We were only designed to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just one Allah, only Allah, one. It's like pleasing people is a burden, because how many people are you going to please? Like, you do this person's happy. You do this person's upset. This person's angry. Like, you can never win. It's never enough, right? And so, like, it is so freeing to just focus on, what does Allah want from me in this moment? What is he looking for from me? It's so freeing. So Jazakallah khair for sharing that. Thank you so much for all sharing your insights and your perspective. It's so helpful, and I appreciate that, because it helps the whole group grow. It helps the whole group learn from each other. And, you know, we're sharing each other's perspectives and insights helps us grow as a collective. And that's what this really is about. Okay. So let's see, keep going here. We're going to move forward to divorce may or may not be the path for you, right? And this is what the indecision is about. So I know that right now it may look like, you know, your only option is, in your current situation and state, maybe divorce, or maybe that's what's being presented to you. Only Allah knows the answer to this, right? And he's giving the answer to you alone. And we talked about that. If you're not able to hear through all the noise, we won't be able to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, we'll be following our own desires, and we don't want that. We'll be following our own feelings, right? And just checking in, where am I? Am I in that place of frustration, of like burnout? Or, you know, am I feeling that peace? Am I feeling that connectedness? Can I hear my soul speaking to me? When this quiets down, you can. So just imagine, again, give yourself that opportunity to close your eyes and imagine yourself making this decision from a place of clarity, confidence, and inner peace, free from overwhelming emotions or doubt. And it's definitely possible. Who wants this? Type a yes in the comments if you want this. Yes. Noor, Fatima, iPhone, Hassan, Jesha. I hope I'm pronouncing your names properly. Thank you guys for sharing. Okay, let's keep going. So I'm going to go into a little bit about what does that look like, you know, to divorce or not to divorce. What does this process look like? And this, it just kind of created this little guideline here, and I unpacked this in extensive detail in my mastermind, Empowered Choices. We go through this in depth, especially part 2 and part 3. How do you step into this state? of tawakkul, of yaqeen, that having that internal confidence and conviction that comes from being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and yourself. And today we're just going to do a surface level of gaining clarity, and again, that clarity comes from that peace, that calm and tawakkul. And so really it's about uncovering. Today is going to be about uncovering the stories that are preventing your clarity from appearing for you, right? Because deep down, you already know what's right for you. However, there's layers of stories and barriers, thoughts, emotions that are covering it up. So we're going to learn how to be in that internal space before we can go on to, the next two steps. And this is really all about when you're connected to yourself and Allah, you're operating at a higher level of consciousness, aware of yourself, what your intention is, how you're choosing to respond. Being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we call that taqwa, right? So I've been talking a lot about clarity, right? And where does clarity come from? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that surely in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. And I know we've all heard this before. So what does that mean? Rest means that the heart is calm. The heart is at peace. It's not agitated. It's not nervous. It's tranquil. I think Fatima used that word, tranquility. It's tranquil, right? And that comes from inside of you. Allah tells us this. It's the remembrance of Allah. That's how your heart is going to find rest. So what does that mean? It's your connection of your heart to Allah in the present moment, which translates to consciousness. Remembrance is consciousness. Are you remembering Allah as you're responding to this conflict, as you're, communicating? Is Allah at the forefront of pleasing Him? Like, are you being driven by pleasing Him? Are you driven in that moment by anger, by how dare he, or like, I can't believe this? It's like same thing all over again. Like, are you in your feelings? Or are you in that state of consciousness? Okay, what is Allah looking for me to do? It's a lot of it is slowing down. If we're rushing and racing and like doing, we won't be able to slow down enough to be conscious, to recognize, where am I at? And so your peace is never going to come from outside of you, not going to come from your circumstance, not going to come from your situation. It's not going to come from people, what they're doing, what they're saying, right? Sometimes people will be like, I can't find peace. I can't find peace. I can't get peace. I'm not at peace because of him, because of her, because of this, because of that, right? Because of my bank account, all these things, right? And it's not those things that bring you peace. And subhanAllah, and I know I'm being very repetitive, and I will be, because I have been understanding this for 10 years. And when I mean understanding this, I've been seeing it from here over and over and over and over again at a deeper and deeper and deeper place that got me from, the whole reason I went into becoming a pharmacist was because there's so much what is that called? Job security, right? In certain type of professions, everyone's looking for financial security, right? And we go based on what we see with our eyes, money coming in, paycheck coming in, a job to go to. And I go into this in a lot of depth. I'm just giving you kind of like a taster here of what I'm talking about. Going into a lot of depth, and I call this differentiating between the means and the source, and how to know what is it that you're relying on. You're relying on the means, or you're relying on the source. The means is like everything other than Allah. The source is only one is Allah, right? So, really understanding this, because there were places that I was anxious, fearful. Oh my God, if I lose, if I have this number in my bank account, oh, alhamdulillah, I'm safe. If I have this number in my bank account, it's the numbers are changing, but I'm giving the meaning to that, right? It's the numbers that don't create that safety and security. There's only one place we get safety and security. Okay, so having clarity you are going to feel secure, connected to yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the present moment. You will have a quiet mind. You will feel at peace and you will be able to flow forward with calm. And you are going to have a knowing that you won't be able to intellectually explain. Again, like, like I give you my example of, talking to my family members about what I was choosing to do with my life and how I'm choosing to, what my mission is, my job, right? I don't like to look at it as my job. I like to look at it as my mission, right? My purpose. That's what I'm living. And like, it's not about me explaining it to them because I don't need to convince or prove to them, right? And you may not be able to, and it's okay. You can share your perspective, whether people get it or not, as long as you know that you're listening to Allah, then, having that groundedness and that security that comes from that, you'll be taken care of. And so this is about having self-awareness at a higher level of consciousness to be crystal clear and making that decision and then start moving forward from that space. How are you doing? How are you doing? Let me check in with you. Would you like to have a 3-minute break or you want me to keep going? Alhamdulillah. Let's take a 3-minute break because there's a lot of information I'm giving you and I'm trying to go as slow as possible while giving you the message. So we're gonna start the timer right now. Sana can keep track of 3 minutes of break just to move around, move your body, get some water, pause and reflect. I love to look out the window and just look at nature just to help me connect back to myself and Allah. And then we'll be back in 3 minutes, inshallah. Thank you guys all for being such a wonderful audience and a wonderful, I love your participation and your engagement. I really feel like, having, we're having like such great communication and there is connection between us. So thank you for that. All right, welcome back. I hope that was calming for you. I hope that was settling for you. So let's keep going. All right, I want to get into here. This part of the workshop is going to be about understanding what is clouding our clarity. So we talked about those emotional storms earlier, right? And what clouds our clarity is that emotional overload, overwhelm, overload of thoughts that, remember, are feelings, such as thoughts turn to feelings, right? Feelings such as resentment, anger, right? Confusion, guilt, unmet needs in there as well, exhaustion, disconnection, all of these things, they're like clouds and they cover up our clarity. You can see that there's a picture of the sun, and clarity, remember, is our clarity is what we have underneath. It comes from our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's already there. And what's just happened is that there have been layers that have covered it up, just like clouds cover up the sun. The sun has not gone away, it's still there. Same thing with the clarity. It's just these clouds have come and they're covering up the sun, right? So that disconnection, feeling distant from yourself, Allah, your spouse, your unmet needs, emotional, spiritual, physical needs left unfulfilled, exhaustion, the cycle of trying and failing leaves you drained, or even just physically you're exhausted and you're drained, not getting sleep, or what do you need to take care of yourself? Confusion and guilt, uncertainty, self-blame, or blaming the other person, all of this. But this is what's happening, is it's just getting overshadowed. And we don't want to act on what we may think or believe is clarity, right? Because that would be like just thinking and believing what we feel is true and then acting on it, right? And we don't want to do that. So let's keep going forward and let me show you, because it feels really real and it looks really real when we're in our feelings and you're like, there's nothing else left for me to do. Like from that place of like, I've tried it all. So the only thing must be, whatever the option is. And like, again, we're talking about divorce here. But it can apply to anything. And even if you use that pathway, when you go to execute, there'll be confusion, there'll be doubt, there'll be guilt, right? So that means that it's not clarity, because these things are still covering your clarity. So when we're in that state of wisdom, when we're in that state of wisdom, which is our natural state, when we're connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not because our natural state is to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? That's our natural fitra state. We're designed to know Allah, seek Allah, to worship Allah. We're hardwired to do that. But there's so many things that disconnect us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Experiences, anger, hurt, pain, distractions, all these things that disconnect us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're talking about in the present moment, because life doesn't exist anywhere else in the present moment. So our natural fitra state is to be in connection with Allah, is to be in wisdom, is to be in clarity and peace. And doesn't mean that we don't experience anger or overwhelm or frustration or anxiety or stress or resentment or any of these things. It doesn't mean that we don't experience that. It just means that we witness it and we experience it, and then it goes. It comes and it goes. It's like clouds passing in the sky. Okay? Because we're not so deep into the emotion that it's clouded and covered up our wisdom. And that's something I teach in my mastermind as well, how to process your emotions and understand what is happening and letting them go, rather than it's not a methodical thing. It's a state of being. It's not a state of doing. This is how you let your emotions go. It's not a state of doing that. It's a state of being. And I teach you how to get into that state, how to be in that state. And so you'll know how to respond and what to do when you're in these emotional states. Okay, I teach you all of that in Empowered Choices. So when you're in this clarity and the wisdom, it means that you're connected to the source, right? And when we're disconnected, it's just temporary in those moments. We can come back to wisdom anytime. We can come back to wisdom anytime, right? And it's just like the clouds lifting and the clouds parting, and you'll feel that, what you guys said, that peace, that tranquility, that calmness. And that's the place where we make decisions from. So this space, this crossroads, wisdom and emotion, which direction do you want to act on, right? We want to make our decisions from wisdom, not emotion. Another word for this would be intuition. I haven't used it that much in this session, but another word for wisdom is your intuition, right? Like I said, your wisdom is guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly to you. There's no middleman, okay? And this is also known as divine thinking, right? Whereas your emotion is coming from your thoughts, which is your personal thinking, okay? I go into depth in all of this in the mastermind. And so your wisdom is where your answers are going to come from. The emotion, all it's telling you, like sometimes we're such in, like, if we're in pain, or we're believing everything that we think, right? And our emotions, like say example of fear, it feels so real, doesn't it? It feels so real. But the thing is that all it means is that you're having fearful thinking underneath. That's all it means, right? And it's just our emotions are just telling us a quality of our thinking in the present moment. That's also known as ego thinking, right? So we cannot rely on our feelings to tell us the truth. We are thinking, feeling beings. So how to make sense of all the feelings coming up for you in your decision-making process to understand how you work. And I explain this in thoroughness in the mastermind. That's the first area that we'll work together on in the mastermind, right? And so this is just giving you kind of like a surface level understanding of how to. We want to be in our wisdom. We want to be able to trust ourselves. Like, I just want to know, how many of you guys feel like you trust, like, do you trust yourself? Does it feel comfortable to trust yourself? Let me know, yes or no, in the comments. Moments of both, somewhat. I don't know. Yes. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, it can go in and out, right? We can go in and out. And the thing is that that's also human and normal to, like, I can't trust myself right now, because you recognize you're in your feelings, to discern the difference between when can I trust myself and when do I just need to wait for it to settle. That's something that I share as well in the mastermind in depth. So let's talk about here relief versus clarity. Two very different paths, okay? What do I mean by this? You know, when we're in that pain of burnout, of that cycle of hope and hopelessness, of just feeling defeated, and we just want that agony and that ache to stop, and we're done, and we're depleted, and we're tired, and we just want relief, that's not the place to make decisions from. And we want to check in with ourselves, right? Because those relief-based decisions are made when you're fed up, burnt out, emotionally overwhelmed. You just want the pain to stop. That won't be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Versus clarity-based decisions are completely different. They come from a quiet, grounded space where your heart is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not being reactive. That is going to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're making choices and showing up from that space, right? And you know, even when you just want relief, it feels like, okay, it will give you the relief, but it's going to be temporary. And when the dust settles, there's going to be implications to that. You know, like I'll give you a perfect example. In a recent situation that I'm going through with my daughter, a lot of the fears that I have about her, I started micromanaging and controlling her. And what ends up happening, what happened is when we are showing up from that space of fear, we're thinking and believing something is going to happen. So therefore we adjust ourselves and we start micromanaging and controlling, and all the things that we do end up, because we're acting as if it's going to happen. We don't know whether it will happen or not, but we're acting as if it's going to happen. So then we show up that way, we behave that way, and that creates a self-fulfilled prophecy. So, when we operate that way, and that's what I found when in situation with my daughter, is that, and then when I realized it, alhamdulillah, like I was able to course correct. I was able to course correct and really step back and surrender to what is Allah showing me. And you know what He was showing me? He showed me that, Raisa, you're not in control. This is not, your job is not to figure out how she's going to turn out or how she's going to end up. That's not your job. Stay in your lane, sit back down. And I had to really let go and trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He knows what He's doing, and surrender to what is He guiding me to do? How is He guiding me to show up? And there's a lot of messages there, but I'm not going to go into all of that. Just wanted to share about what happens when we make decisions from a fearful place, right? And then later on, like, regret comes in. Did I do the right thing? Did I make the right choice? That self-doubt, right? And so here's the kicker. Here's the beautiful thing, is that when your decision is from clarity, relief automatically comes naturally without regret. I think that's a beautiful place to be in, right? Because the relief comes from following Allah, from listening to Allah. So the question really is that you want to make your decisions from an emotional survival space, or from that spiritual certainty, from trying to escape the pain, or from being aligned with what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guiding me to? What is He telling me? What is He showing me? Right? Only one of those paths lead to peace. So you won't have to, second guess and question later. So we talked a little bit about this earlier, like it was in one of the polls, how often does divorce thinking come up? And one of the most common responses was always. And this just goes to show you that you're at that space of like kind of defeatedness, of like, I've tried everything, I don't know what else to do. This may be the only option, right? And the issue here is not having divorce thinking. That's human nature, right? That's going to happen. We're not judging and criticizing the thinking, because we're thinking, feeling beings. It's the issue is not having divorce thinking. The issue is, what is your internal state when this is happening? When you're thinking about divorce, what is your internal state? So what is happening internally for you? Check in with yourself. And this is another place where we can take a moment to do another breakout room to reflect on, when divorce thinking is happening, when you're having these thoughts of divorce, what state are you in and what is happening internally? And so we're going to take about 1 minute for each person to share what's happening internally for them, and then the other person is going to share, and we're going to come back in 3 minutes. Okay. So Sana is posting the rooms for you guys, and just click on the link and you can go right into your discussions. Click on your screen so you can join. And you can click on the screen. If you need help, just let us know. to join the breakout room so you can reflect and share with each other what state are you in when these thoughts are coming up. And if you're in this room, that's okay also, you can still do the reflection. Yeah, it would help if I got out of mute, right? If I unmuted myself. I was saying that those of you who are back in the room, you've had a chance to reflect on this, share and put in the chat what came up for you. What did you notice? What did you realize when you looked inward, internally about yourself when these thoughts of divorce were popping up for you? Fatima saying, I noticed that I have a lot of fear and I don't feel clarity in saying that I am officially done with this relationship. SubhanAllah, yeah. It's such a beautiful insight when we pause enough and allow ourselves to look within deeply and reflect. The answers are there. Like we'll be able to recognize what's really going on underneath, right? When we slow down to do that. Yeah, that's so common. It's so normal. Fear is such a, it's a survival mechanism. It's part of how we are designed, in terms of our brain to keep us safe, to keep us, in survival. And the thing is that the thoughts that the brain comes up with that it becomes fearful around, are not always true, and maybe at one point, when your subconscious was being developed, it created that belief, but being able to slow down and consciously check in, like, is this true? Like, that level of fear just makes you want to bolt. That level of overwhelm and being done just makes you want to bolt to get that relief, but then the fear comes in. So thank you for sharing that. Fatima. Anyone else? What did you uncover? You know, anytime we're not in wisdom, we're actually in our emotions and we're not being guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's kind of like we're either operating on our own self by our ego, or shaitan's getting in there and, you know, making it worse for us. And we just go off on our own rather than, okay, I'm relying on you, I'm counting on you. And it can feel really justifiable when we've reached our limits, we've had it. It can feel like, okay, that's it, I need to leave. I need to, you know, it can feel very justifiable. But when you don't understand the difference between thinking and feeling, or discerning, am I in my feelings? Okay, what do I do now here? How do I help myself? Versus, okay, how do I get to clarity? You know, and again, these are all understanding what's happening and how to help yourself is what I teach you in my mastermind, Empower Choices. Okay, so Nasser responded, restless and fearful. Oh, subhanAllah. It's like, makes sense. It makes total sense. Like when you're in that restless, fearful state, it shows that in that moment you're disconnected from yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So you don't have access to your wisdom then. And it makes total sense that when you're restless and you're fearful, you want to bolt, you want to run. And this is not, and I'm not saying this for any type of blame, it's just to help us understand ourselves and, you know, how we're operating, how we're processing, you know, because we want to be very clear on the choices that we're making, because we're going to have to account for them. You know, we can't just say to Allah, it's, you know, when we have to account, well, I did it because he did this. He made me feel this. She made me feel this. It's because of him. Like, we can't stand there and say that, right? So assessing ourselves, understanding ourselves, what's going on for us underneath, is so helpful in getting to choose the decisions that you want to make. Samira saying, sorry, I didn't participate in my group because someone knocked at my door. However, ultimately for me, I have those thoughts when I'm in a state of frustration, fear, and hopelessness. Thank you so much, Samira, for sharing that. Yeah, frustration, fear, hopelessness. That sounds like a theme, that fear, restlessness, that's, you know, anxiety, that leads to anxiety, and hopelessness, that despair, all of that, that comes from shaitan. That hopelessness, that despair comes from shaitan, because that's what he has to offer us. That's what he does offer us, fear of loss and hopelessness and despair. And he wants to keep us away from the mercy and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He, you know, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offers us abundance and hope, right? And optimism. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offers us, and shaitan doesn't. So thank you, ladies, for participating and engaging and just being willing to be open and go deeper within yourself. Thank you. Okay. So let's talk about our emotions and feelings. And we've done a lot of that talking, but let's go a little bit deeper, right? And who knows this? Have you seen the one who has chosen his desires as his Lord? God has knowingly caused him to go astray, sealed his ears and heart, and veiled his vision. Who besides God can guide him? Will they then not take heed? Who knows this verse? You know, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us here? When we are thinking and believing what we are feeling as truth, you know, our feelings are our desires, our emotions and our feelings are our desires, our hawa, you know? And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mean by who has chosen his desires as his Lord? Because we're believing that is true. We're believing what we're feeling is true. And it may be like, I want to just differentiate. What we're feeling is valid. That's not dismissing that. And what we're feeling and we're thinking is our truth. So it's your truth. But there is a distinction between your truth and the truth. And the truth lies only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We might think we know the truth. We know what's happening here. We see the perspective here. But truth doesn't come from inside of us, from our mind. The truth comes from Allah, and He allows us to have access to it through our heart, through our connection with Him. when he lifts the veil for us to see what is true and what is not. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here, and subhanAllah, like I've fallen into this. And even now, like I could see myself falling into this. And that's why, being able to catch myself, being able to have the support to help me be supported where I can't see my blind spots, where I can't see where I'm not seeing it. I'm thinking, well, this is true. This is what's happening, that story in my mind. And this is what happens, is whatever we see and whatever we hear is from our own perception, is not the truth. And our seeing and our hearing and our heart is all veiled. It's kind of like, okay, you wanna follow your emotions, you wanna follow your ego, you wanna follow your own desires, go ahead, go. It's like, when we become stubborn in that and we insist on that, then Allah allows us to, right? And we don't want to be one of those. I know I certainly don't. And I know you don't either. That's why you're here. And so and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, is who besides God can guide him? That is the truth. That is really the truth. We think, okay, let me call this person. Let me ask this person. This person will know. Like the lawyer is going to be able to tell me what are my rights and all this stuff. Like, no, there's only one Allah that can guide us. That's it, full stop. That's where guidance comes from, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to reflect. He tells us all the time in the Quran, do they not think? Do they not reflect? Do they not know? So he's asking us, hey, are you paying attention? Are you realizing this? This is what's happening, right? And so I thought this was really, really powerful. And I wanted to share this because it really had an impact on me when I read this verse in the Quran of, wait a minute, let me slow down, because not everything I think is true. It may feel like that in that moment, but just because I feel it and I think it doesn't mean it's true. I don't want to follow my feelings, okay? And so when we understand this and we have that intention and that desire and that drive, and we're taking we're really learning and understanding how to be in our wisdom and act from that and not our emotions, this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Talaq, right? The chapter on divorce. Whoever is mindful of Allah, He will make a way out for them. What does that mean? Mindful means conscious. Whoever is conscious of Allah, that's taqwa, right? And that's what the actual verse says. The verse says taqwa. He will provide a way for them from sources they could never imagine. Wow, like, we spend all this time thinking how I need to figure it out, how I need to get everything in order, and plan it out this way. And things never go according to the way we plan. We plan and plan and plan, but the only plan that ends up coming to fruition is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan, right? So this is how this verse in Surah Talaq manifests in our life when we have that. When we're mindful of Allah, we have that taqwa, we have that consciousness of Him in every action we're taking, a choice that we're making. Then He brings the way. Like, we don't even have to think about, we don't have to do the figuring out. We're not figuring anything out. Allah is going to handle it. He is going to figure it out. And that's kind of how I felt like when everyone's like, well, how are you going to support yourself? How are you going to, pay for this and pay for that? I'm like, well, I'm doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. I'm living my purpose. I know my mission. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm doing. I'm listening to Him, and He'll take care of the rest. And He has, subhanAllah, He has. He's set everything up for me that it replaced everything from my pharmacy income. So, it's like, what am I going to trust? Am I relying on the means, or am I relying on the source, right? And we know that this is what is tawakkul. In verse 3, putting their trust in Allah is tawakkul. Okay, and I explained this in detail in my mastermind, the correlation between taqwa and tawakkul, and how you need to have taqwa to have tawakkul. Let me see what's in the chat. Somebody said something in the chat. Okay, I'll answer that question a little bit later. Okay, let's keep going here. Check in with yourself. Again, I'm inviting you to see like, how are you able to discern the difference? Am I deciding to stay married or get a divorce truly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Fatima said earlier? Is Allah guiding me to separate or to stay? Or have I reached my limit due to frustration and desperate for peace and relief? You know, the challenge here is being able to tell the difference. When we're in our feelings, our intention to please Allah, and you know, our intent, when we're in our feelings, our challenge gets muddy. I mean, our intention gets muddied, and our intention becomes to feel better rather than to please Allah. They're not the same. They're not the same. Our intention that was originally to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes to the back, right? And the forefront becomes, I just want to feel better. I just need to feel better. Right? And so we've lost our intention in that moment. And that's why we're just focusing on pleasing ourselves rather than pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So I want to just check in with you and see, like, how are you doing? What have you taken away so far? And I will answer your question. And you can feel free to unmute yourself, come on the mic. Let me stop this. And let me come back here to you so I can see you better, because I know with all this screen sharing, I can get lost in who are my people here, that I have a whole room of people here that I want to connect with. So we're almost done. We're not done yet, but I just want to check in with you. You can unmute yourself, tell me what you have taken away so far, or you can put in the chat, whatever works for you. Alhamdulillah. Trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and oneself and figuring out how to get there. Alhamdulillah. That's the part you don't have to do. You don't have to figure it out. That's the part that is more about being. And that's what I teach in my Empowered Choices mastermind, of how do you be, not like how do you get there? Because we don't, like, there's no work, you know, it's not about figuring it out, because that's about the doing. The doing will come when you're in the clarity, but to get to the clarity is what's going on internally for you. Right. And so whether you stay or you leave you know, you're not in this marriage anymore, you want to be able to navigate it successfully. And even after divorce or even in your marriage, there's always like communication and decisions that need to be made. Right. So how do you know, like, what are your blind spots? How do you know what your blind spots are? Right. And those symptoms, like I mentioned to you before, I had blind spots as well. Feeling anxious, feeling fearful, feeling panicky, resentful, scrolling, Netflix binging, you know, just wanting to escape. These are all clouds that are covering up your clarity. So when we work together, I can show you how to move through the clouds so they dissipate and that clarity emerges. Thank you for sharing all of these takeaways. Trusting Allah, continuing to place the need to figure it out in Allah. He's going to figure it out and show you, yes. It was good reminder that sometimes in this process, due to emotions, we can get sidetracked. As long as Allah is at the forefront, inshallah, will be taken care of. Yes, yes. Take decisions based on wisdom, not based on emotions, and the decision should be in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. Who wants to learn how to be in your wisdom? Let me know. Yes, yes. Everyone wants to. That's wonderful. I love that. Well, alhamdulillah, let me go back to my screen share here. Okay, so of the last things that I want to share with you is that, when we come onto the call, I want you to just reflect, what are the feelings that have been most prevalent coming up for you? And what do you think the story is behind those feelings? In terms of, like, for example, there's a lot of fear that's coming up for you, or restlessness or anxiety, that means that there's uncertainty, or there's unknown, there's fears around that. Like, what are the thoughts behind it? What type of fearful thinking are you having? You can bring that to our call and we can unpack that there. And I'll show you how you can, I'll share with you what I do in my program and how you can join that program if you feel that that's something that is right for you. Okay, so let's see here, where are we at? So who wants to, everyone said they want to have clarity. Everyone said that they want to learn how to do this. So we will continue this. We will continue this on our private call one-to-one in your specific situation, right? This was just in a group of me sharing about how to get into clarity, how to get into confidence, how to know how to make a decision that is going to be pleasing to Allah, what's the right thing for you, right? Because it's a process. It really is a journey, as you've seen. And in our call, we can go through your specific situation. So, and before you do that, before I leave you here, I want you to imagine yourself going on this journey and coming out the other side with less thinking on your mind and decision making coming more easily now. So take a moment to put your hand on your heart, take some deep breaths and close your eyes and just imagine her, that radiant, beautiful you, feeling so calm and serene and tranquil and at peace and content, and like flowing forward with knowing what's right for her and feeling like so satisfied and so fulfilled that she's doing what's right for her and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the same time. And with that, that's where I will meet you in the call. And I just want to share a little bit about empowered choices that you've heard me talk about a little bit. My 12-week mastermind, where I work with women to help them get into that space of clarity and confidence and conviction so they can make decisions that are rooted in taqwa and tawakkul. This journey that we take, and this is just a little sample of one of the members who was in Empowered Choices, where she talks a little bit about going through this journey helped her have some realization in how she was interacting with her husband as she was navigating, do I stay, do I go, do I stay, do I go? And she had some deep insights about what was actually happening in their dynamic. And she was saying that, sex with my husband had become a chore and eventually felt repulsive. The more he reacted from a place of ego, the more unheard, unseen, unloved, and unappreciated I felt. This happened in tiny bits and pieces. Any harsh word he said or any unkind or disrespectful behavior was remembered at the time of lovemaking and made me feel like an object, made me see him as insensitive, unkind, uncaring, until they became even bigger words to describe him in and out of bed, such as rude, tyrant, and animal. SubhanAllah, in the same way I had built up stories and labels about him, I can begin to see how on his part, he built up stories to justify however he sees me. And this was so powerful for my client, because she had a better understanding of herself and of her husband. And so she was able to show up. How do you feel when you're unheard? You feel unheard and unseen and unloved and uncared for. You feel dismissed, like you feel hurt, rejected, pain. And it's very difficult to show up as your best self, right? As your highest self there. When people who are hurt and pain, they hurt other people, not even realizing it. It just comes out reactively, right? So when she saw this, she was focusing on how she was showing up as she was making these decisions. And this is how the sister describes the above insight she had. What she realized, she phrased it as, Alhamdulillah, it was exciting to watch moment by moment the gifts of Allah He's Al-Wahhab and constantly giving us gifts. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. And so this spiritual sight and realization and insight are all gifts from Allah, where He lifts the veil for us to see from our soul rather than our ego. And this actually, this is one of the things I teach in communication, separating the person from the problem, so you can communicate with the human being that you may have such intense feelings about because of the experiences you've gone through together, such as hatred or rage or resentment or anger or frustration. And that is what comes out when you're trying to communicate to the person, not what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this helped her in communicating, the process and the journey that she wanted to go on in terms of divorce, what she wanted, what she needed. And it really helped her a lot. Because at the end of the day, she felt really good about how she was showing up, because she knew that she was only accountable for herself, not for him. So inshallah, I'll see you on our private call. And what I want to share with you is this code. You can use this code. This is my gift to you. It's called Workshop 1000, and you get $1,000 off Empowered Choices, Navigating Marital Crossroads with Clarity and Confidence. And this is for the cohort that we're starting in May. And my assistant Sana is going to drop the link in, and I'll email it to you as well about the mastermind. But you have an opportunity, for those of you who stay till the end, you get to use this code to get a discount for $1,000 off the experience. Let me come back in here and see what else here. Yeah, I'm going to just answer. Thank you, ladies, all for sharing me. I want to, yeah. I'm going to go back and answer this question. And then we will wrap up. So the question is, how long did it take for me to be strong and over with emotions and see the wisdom behind the divorce? When did feel it was the best thing for you? SubhanAllah, I did a TEDx youth talk on this, and I called it my divorce, and my marriage and my divorce was the best thing that happened to me when it did. And how long? I would say it's a journey. At every moment I felt like I was improving, because I was getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was getting closer and closer and closer to him. So it's not about how long. Like, I've been on this journey for 10 years now. I'm a completely 100% different person. People do not recognize me. And I've made this 180-degree shift of coming back home to myself, coming back home to who I truly am through my relationship and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not about how long. It's been a journey, and it's just gotten deeper and deeper. My connection, subhanAllah, to Allah and myself has grown. And it doesn't end. It really doesn't end until the end. The depth of understanding yourself, of knowing yourself, of accepting, of honoring, of loving, of valuing and respecting yourself, it goes hand in hand with how you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how do you know him, right? Because we've all been taught about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from other people, but have you learned about who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from him, right? And that's, from the Quran, obviously. So my journey I've been going on this for 10 years, and alhamdulillah, like, inshallah, I keep going, and I do, because I'm always giving myself the support that I need in terms of continuing my growth, continuing my deepening of my understanding spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. Like, I'm always investing in myself and my growth. And that's how I got to where I am today. Of course, it's from the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the actions that I took. I hope that answered your question. My pleasure. You're welcome. Thank you for being here, for taking out more than 2 hours of your time to be here, to invest in yourself and to give yourself something, and going through the process and the journey. 2 hours is of deep stuff that we talked about, and that we dug deep, is not easy, and not everybody wants to do it. And so bravo to you, and mashallah to you all for choosing that for yourself. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you being here. How did you navigate with children involved? Thank you so much for your time and sharing. Thank you. Just like, when I wish the course was a little cheaper. Well, when we go on the go on our call, we can talk about that. Because, you know, we want to be really mindful of how we're viewing things, right? Like, are you cheap? Like, are you cheap? Like, think about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create a cheap human being who he charged to be his Khalifa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not see you as cheap, right? So we want to see what is it we're desiring? What is it that we're wanting? What do we want to step into? Who do we want to be? Right? And what does that mean to us? How valuable is that to us? Because something that we value, that is important to us, we will invest in. Think about the things that you invest in, you know, like what are the big things that people invest in? People invest in houses, people invest in, you know, clothing, people invest in bags, people invest in vacations, people invest in how people perceive them, you know, people invest in makeup and cosmetics. You know how much of a billions-dollar industry that is? Like us women, we invest in those things. We invest in jewelry, right? Why are we willing to pay for those type of things? But when it comes to our own development, our own growth, and where and how it could help us get closer to our goals and our dreams of becoming the person we want to become, and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we hesitate on that. I hope that addressed, you know, that comment, that statement. How did I navigate with the children involved? Those were the biggest tests of my life. Those are the biggest tests of my life. Like I said, you know, you can look on my website under the blog. I wrote a lot about my parental alienation, of how I lost the relationship with my children and how I reconnected with one of them, and how that is my biggest test, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught me detachment with my children. He's taught me detachment with a lot of things, people that I can, and with that detachment to people, to family members, to my children, to the things that I want, to going to attachment to him. It was, yes, it was difficult, but it was such a beautiful gift, because now I can operate with, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and I'm living on my purpose, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing me what is my path, what I need to focus on, what do I need to be chasing. I need to be chasing him and my purpose, not what is not for me right now. Yes, I still make dua. Yes, I still have a few interactions here and there, and I'm content with what I have. I focus on what I have, not what I don't have. And it brings me a lot of peace and joy and contentment, because I love what I do have. All right, my lovelies. Well, it's 1:15 here, and I want to be respectful and honor your time as well. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to connecting with each one of you one-on-one in our calls. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.